question. Let's say I'm going to give you an assignment today on the PGP and say, I want you to change at a minimum 5 of these things. And you go change them. And you say, no, those 5 work great. And you're working for 2 or 3 days and you say, I want to go in and do it again. I would come into my backup folder and I'd maybe make another one and say, back up this date and make it newer than this, and then copy that one in there because you know it's good. Make a couple more changes, kind of keep evolving. Whatever the case might be. Keep in mind, we can always get this stuff, even if you screw it up. There's nothing you can do in here over these 2 weeks I can't fix. Okay.
Well, you haven't been here yet.
Okay, I can even go to the point where I say uninstall AutoCAD 2020 and we reinstall it. Okay, no biggie. Okay, you're better off on this playing and living dangerously. Okay. You'll learn more from it. We can always fix it. Okay. All right, any questions on what we've done? All right, now, you can edit that file by going through that directory. AutoCAD does give us inside of AutoCAD the ability to edit this file and one other, the CUI. So if you would, start AutoCAD. And again, like I mentioned at the start, if you have AutoCAD with another drawing up, save that drawing and close it at this point. You don't want anything else up. So I'm just going to start AutoCAD and I'm just going to jump into one of my templates. It doesn't matter which one. We're not going to draw anything. Okay, if you would, go to the Manage ribbon. And then I've got my cursor over a little area right here where it says Edit Aliases. If you would click that little drop down arrow, and the very top option is Edit Aliases. Go ahead and click into that. What it should have started was a little program called Notepad. Right at the top, it should say external command and command alias definitions. Okay. Now, I printed this for you because whenever I customize, I've always gotten into the habit of I like hard copies because now I can see how the original text was written. I make notes on them for anything I change. So if I do screw it up, I know, oh, I got to go back to this line. Here's where I did it. I found that to be very valuable, always having a hard copy. Not to mention backing up. When you get into these programs, by the way, you've got this handout. Whenever you see this semicolon in these files that are upcoming over the course of this week, that's a comment line. By that, there's no programming here. It's where the programmer themselves said, let me give you some information on how this file works. So it's just like a Word document. It says, hey, this is the way it works. Okay. It's always a good idea to read through this, because this is what they want you to know about this file. Okay. So those are comment areas. Now, in your handout that I gave you, if you go to page 2, let me kind of flip over to this. Let me get kind of the highlights so you can stay with me. What does the AutoCAD PGP do? It does 2 things for you. One that's going to be totally new to you that we haven't even used. And that is that you can run other programs out of AutoCAD. You can run Word, you can run the internet, you can run these. So that's down here on page 2 where you come in and I wrote down here on the bottom, external programs. So you see that area?
That's what that does? That's what it holds?
Yep. So here's the programming that we deal with. Right here. Right now, you can start Windows Explorer, Notepad, or Paintbrush out of AutoCAD. just by typing on the command line.
You have to have them on your computer in order to do this?
Yes, you do. Yep, they have to be installed on your computer. And these are all installed as part of Windows, so. So that's the first thing this file controls, is external programs and how you run them. Okay. The second thing that this thing controls is your command aliases. Okay. So if you turn the page, one more page, I put a little down arrow that says, here's your command aliases. And this is the file that controls how that works. So when you say L enter, it's actually reading this file. That's how it knows what to do. So let me just use one here. How about ARC? So if you go to AutoCAD and you hit A enter, it has already read this file and it says, A, what am I supposed to do? And it comes into here and says, oh, I'm supposed to do the ARC command. Now notice that it just does ARC. And ARC's got like 10 options, right? It will do only the standard ARC command, which is what? End, center, end, right? I believe. So you can come in and use like, switch these over, but there's a better place for that, so we're not going to go there. You could come in and tell it, hey, I want you to do circle, tangent, tangent, radius always, okay, or whatever the case might be. But that gets a little complex here. It's better to do it in the CUI file. So for now, we're just going to concentrate on our big commands. Okay. So you see what this is doing? Okay. How many of you use the command line on a regular basis when you draw? Okay. 3 of you? 4? I'll tell you what, folks, you're going to hear this over and over. This is one of the big things AutoCAD has over other programs, is that you can use the command line and that keyboard as well as icons and the mice. And in fact, I think most people will tell you this is the one reason they'd rather run AutoCAD than MicroStation, which is its main competitor, right? MicroStation also does everything just like AutoCAD. Many companies use it, but it's almost all mouse driven. You don't have the option of using command line. Okay? And most people love it because it's quicker. If you aren't using the command line, you should get a small suite of commands and use them. You should. I don't know that this really goes on in today's world, but a decade ago, many times a company would bring you in for an interview and they'd say, hey, draw this little widget, and they just immediately know, hey, they're not using the command line, they're not using hotkeys, we're not going to bring them on. They haven't taken the time to really dive in and make themselves efficient. And this is making you efficient. Now, what would we want to change in here to make us better? How many of you use match properties? Okay. Does anybody use the command line for that? John, you do? You do? What's the hot strokes for those?
MA.
MA. Is MA fast?
No.
No, it's not. It's terrible, isn't it?
Actually, I don't have any. Yeah,
Can you make it quicker?
No, I use that for move.
Yeah. So we can't use move, because that one I'm using a lot. And you're going to do these little mental gymnastics in your mind. Which one do I use the most? And that should take priority. Okay. You use move a lot, right?
Yeah.
Probably more than match properties. And so I would leave M for move. But what's P do? P stands for properties, right? What's the P do? Nobody uses it, right? Because it's the pan command.
Oh, yeah.
And what do you got pan? That's holding the middle mouse wheel down, right? That's much faster than even typing P. So you'll never use P on the command line. But I could make it properties, couldn't I? Okay. Well, let's try it. Okay. And let's look at how we would edit it. Okay. But we're going to start with the command aliases here. I'm going to switch over to the computer. And I'm going to run down to the P's. Now, one thing you should know about this file, when you switch one of these, it goes alphabetical. When AutoCAD reads this file, it reads it once when it starts up, and then it doesn't read it again. Okay, so it reads this, puts it into its thing, and then it's done with this file when it starts. Also, if you come in and you've got a P here, that's something, and I come down and I've got another P down here, the first P is the one that's gonna work. The second one will not work, so you cannot have duplicates. You gotta have something unique.
What's minus P?
Okay, so you wanna make sure you're changing that. So I'm gonna go down to the Ps. Right here. Okay, so I've got P is equal to pan, or slash P is equal to slash pan. That's the old one. Now, what do I want P to now be? You need to know the name of the command. Okay? So go look at MA and see where it says MA is asterisk match properties, match prop. That's what you type on the command line to get that command. So all I'm going to do is come in here and I'm going to highlight that asterisk match properties and hit Control C for copy. And you can just retype it if you want. I'm just a terrible typer, so I copy, cut, and paste as much as I can. Now I'm going to go back down to that P, and where it says asterisk pan, I'm going to highlight that and then hit Control V to replace it with match properties.
So it doesn't matter if it's capital or not?
Nope, it's not case sensitive. But you kind of want to leave it easy to read. I always try and stay with the syntax of the program. And in fact, really after this comma, I need one space, that's all. But it's nice to have everything lined up so that it reads well. So I try and leave the file structure alone. So you should now have P, comma, a few spaces, and then asterisk match prop. Does everybody have that?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so I highlighted it.
Okay, hit Control C. Okay, now go down to your keys, and then highlight asterisk and hit Control V.
Okay, but when it is.
It just overwrites it, just delete it.
Okay.
So you're good.
But now, don't we have to remove MA, because we want to read MA match
No,
properties
because you want us
first?
to be able to do both.
No, MA will open match properties, P will open match properties when we're done.
What do you want?
Just leave it.
Okay,
It's not hurting you.
okay.
You'll find in there, MText has like 4 of them.
Okay. That's great.
Okay, so we're all good on that. Now, the next thing I would do is I'd go to my hard copy and I would write out, hey, I took out pan and I put match properties in here.
Okay, so how do you go to your hard copy? What does that mean?
Your hard copy is this thing right here that I gave you.
Oh, you just.
I just
write on-
document.
Oh, okay.
So I just go down to the pan and I scratch it out and I write in match properties. But I don't use like a Sharpie so that I block out the pan. I want to see the original and how I've changed it.
Are you gonna tell us what the minus pan means?
What's that?
What's the one underneath it?
You said it was the old pan.
Dash P?
It's the old pan. It's old versions. It's for working off the command line and getting all the options that go with it.
You can still do dash P and it works?
That will do pan. And you want to leave those. Those are from the old AutoCAD. So if you change this in AutoCAD version 6,
Oh, so you have to leave all that?
it would
Okay.
still work.
So they'll just keep adding to this as a version of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Now with that thought, And I'm just gonna zip to the hard copy, not go in the digital. But if you go to the end of the document I printed out, you can see that they've got aliases for commands discontinued in AutoCAD 2007, discontinued in 2013, discontinued in 2014, so on and so forth, right? You see all that?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's just old historical stuff. And I just leave it alone.
Okay.
Should we do one more?
Yes.
Okay. All right, before we do one more, I'm gonna go get on your hard copy and let's just go through this real quick and I'm gonna kind of tell you some you should look at. A for ARC. Do we use the ARC really for anything? We almost don't. Is the A available? I'm looking for these single strokes. Remember, I want to be fast. Okay. Does A have to be a command that starts with A? No. Okay. A can be trim. Whatever. Could be whatever you want it to be. Okay. You just want to leave A alone and then make sure the command is right. This is one that's available to you because you're not overriding a command that you use all the time. Now, you do want them to make a little bit of sense so that you can have these memorized, right? I don't think there's anything else on the first page. Let's go to down the bottom it says page 4. It's the second page of the aliases. I do like B for block. That's make block. So that's a good one to kind of leave alone. Now, I do have some that I do change here. So I've got a C for circle, and down below that, and I've highlighted the two here, CO for copy.
See,
Okay. Well, which one do you use the most out of those two? Copy without a doubt, right? You're real lucky, even on a mechanical drawing, if you do 10 circles in a drawing. But you'll probably use copy 100 times in the same drawing. So in essence, CO is hard for me to hit. So C is copy for me. Now, if I change the C and I take the CO out, and I just put a C in and make that copy, it's not going to work because I've got another C up here, right? And it's going to read the first one. So I still want circle to be fast. I still use circle quite often. So I make it CC, where I just hit the C twice. Or you come up with any invention you want. This seems to work pretty well, so let's change that one. Well, let's not change it, let's finish going through this first. But there's a couple that I think you might want to think about. Let's just keep going down through this and make sure we get all the... D for dim style. Do you go into that very often?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you might want to leave it, you might not. On to page 5. Here's one I use all the time. This is actually D on my computer. I switched the two. I use DI for dim style, and I use D for distance. Because I do use distance a lot more than dim style. Usually I just go into dim style once or twice a drawing just to edit or modify. Here's another one that's available for you. E. Does anybody even use the erase command? Because you got the delete key, right? This is extend for me. Okay, and you can put whatever you want in here, but I'm saying I doubt any of you use the erase command. Because the delete key does the same thing.
So you don't replace erase for something else?
No, I don't use enough erase. But I use the icon for array. F for fillet's pretty good. We really don't use group very often, so G is kind of available to you if you wish for it. I do like H for hatch. I is another one. You may like I leave I alone, but that's the insert block. And when we get into, we're going to use a lot of blocks, this I think you're probably going to want to leave that one alone. I use J all the time, L for line, those are all good. M for move. I'm on to page 7. Y'all like O for offset? That works pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've already talked about the P for pan. I think P edit's another one I use quite often, but P is good for that. I'm on to page 8. Here's another one I've switched. R, redraw. Do we even use redraw anymore? No, you guys don't even know what blips are. It's the only reason we use redraw. Guess what redraw is for me? Or R.
Rotate.
Yeah, it's rotate. S for stretch, that's good. I like that one. Okay, I have changed when we come into, I'm on page 9. And this is a good kind of place to make a comment. Now, T for M-Tex.
Honestly, I was good.
This is where you have to make the call. Does T want to be trim, which I use a ton, or do I want it to be M-Text? But I do use a lot of M-Text. Okay. So here you got a decision to make. And in fact, is trim at TR, is that a fast one to hit, or is it a slow one?
They're right next to each other, it's pretty quick.
Yeah, I actually leave this one alone and leave T for text. That's me, not you. You may make it different. Remember, you got that A available. That A might match the icon for the A for M-Text. I don't know.
I didn't know T was in text. I thought it had to do with T.
No. T is. TR is trim, but your choice.
And T is in text too.
Yeah, like I said, M-Text is in here about 4 different ways.
I did not know that.
UN for units, that's pretty good. There is no U in there, right?
Just make units U.
There's no U in there at all. Yeah, can I edit one of these to make it better, or can I interject another command I use all the time off the command line? Another one that ought to be available to you, Z for zoom. Okay. Well, your zoom is your middle mouse wheel, right? In and out, double click for zoom extents. Those are the majority of them. Do you really need the zoom command? I'm kind of old school. I do use zoom. I use the window option of zoom quite often, but that's probably because I've got baggage from the old days that I'm still using. Okay, that's not the whole story, but those are just some that just pop right out and say, hey, why don't I change these? Just so you know, I would like you to document at a minimum 5 changes. By that, make those changes on here, make sure your name's at the top, turn this in, and I want to look at it. I'm also, once I've looked at it, I'll probably come over, I know probably about it, I'm going to come over to your machine and we're going to test them to make sure they work. Okay. All right, so we're not done with this yet. So those are just some options. We're going to change one more. Let's change copy. So I'm going to go back to the computer And let's just look at a couple so you can see how it works.
So if there's not a U on there, so you can add just a U,
Yeah,
and then, so you just type the U, and then you go highlight what you wanna change, and then go back to that line and paste it there.
yep. So let me just kind of demo that for you. Okay. So I'm gonna go down to my U's. So what I do is get out right after table style, I'm gonna hit enter to get myself another line. Okay, and then I'm just gonna hit, let's see, do I have caps lock on? U, comma, space, and then what do I want it to be? It's gotta be an asterisk, and then whatever command I'm gonna use. Okay. Now, you can't use another alias here. So I can't do asterisk L for line. I've gotta type in line. Okay. And then I would just add it and save it, and I'm good. Okay. All right, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go back up to the C's, and most people seem to like this change, so let's make this change. By the way, these changes we're making now don't count in your file. So I'm going to go to C, where it says circle. Now remember, always try and keep the context of the file. So I'm going to add a C, so it's now CC for circle. And as soon as I do that, notice, as soon as I hit the CC for circle, it kicked this guy out. Okay, jump over to the other side of the comma and take out a space so that everything lines up or whatever, and you can keep it all good. Okay, so I'm going to then come over, hit delete, line it back up. So CC is now circle. And I'm going to go down to CO for copy. And I'm going to delete out the O, and then again, jump over to the other side of the comma and add a space so everything lines up. So if you would, make those two changes.